everybody. Welcome back to Higher Density Living. You were joined here today with you know who. We don't have to say anything else. Jason, you said you have something that you want to get me pumped up about.
Mm-hmm. So I've been listening to Law of One more and more. They have it online now. You can they have it where it's like, and they've had it for a while, but there's audio files. So if you read you can read it and listen to it. I kind of like that better. And then I'm trying to another way for me to do it is to repeat what they say.
What do you mean?
Why I'm reading it. So if I hear it, then I just repeat back what they said, and then I read it too.
Oh, cool.
It seems like it's getting in.
I like that.
It's going through the dents.
It's penetrating.
I've got like 6 densities of. So I kind of wanted to get into. We know in each our catalyst and what we do, especially coming from 3rd to 4th density. Through each density, we have to learn the lessons in the university that we're in for that density.
Whoa. So I'm in a life university?
Yeah, every density you are.
Okay. All right.
So we got to learn the lessons of 4th density and 3rd density. 3rd density is separation, it's unconsciousness. We're going into unity, 4th density. So, we have to learn the lessons of what unity looks like in this. And Ra gets into specifically, not with the green ray chakra, 4th density, but he gets more into understanding what that looks like. And then he gets very practical into it in service to others. So I kind of wanted to help people understand in a very practical way, in a day-to-day of what service to other looks like. Because that's how, once you get to the 51% or whatever he says it is, then you're, and it's really hard to do because there's only a small percentage of people that are pulled over to the 4th density. And we can see, a Buddha, Jesus.
What Ra calls the harvest.
Yes.
Now, you have this university of 3rd density. And our goal is to go through the 7 substages, right? Essentially learnings required through many, many different lifetimes to get up to 4th. What is it that is outlined by Ra that talks about that it is a need of understanding for service to others? Like, what's the definition of a 3rd density service to others?
That's what I can't. Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
I'm asking you that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
I have it I have it real specific. Okay. So I want to get into that. Your existence in 3rd density becomes as you are understanding the catalysts that you're going through, which are the learning lessons, becomes a soul act of service in love and truth. That's the purpose. I hope people understand this because I want to make sure that I'm getting this. When you when you're learning and then you're taking that and refracting that back to someone else. So as you're not full of bullshit, as you have true love within you, that reflection becomes automatic in an organic way, service to others.
Okay, I get it.
You understand what I'm saying?
You don't have to go out there and say, I got to martyr this. I got to help as many people. I got to feed the homeless. Right. I have to do things that are damaging to the self.
Right.
By being the best, most truthful, most creationally aligned human being in 3rd density, as you walk around and interact with people, flora and fauna, your energy, your thoughts, your actions will be reflected onto that without the need of having to force.
Yes, there you go.
This thing like, oh, I'm doing a service to others. I have to be doing this. No, it's because if you're living in the creational principles day in and day out, and then when people interact with you, they feel that. They understand that truth. And they learn without you actually telling them what needs to be learned.
Yes.
That's a perfect example of being a teacher.
Yes, 100%. And there's a gap between your real self and the self you perceive because our beliefs, biases, all of that separateness or falseness that we believe is truth, that's what our perceived self looks like. So I look at the world totally different than you look at the world. And your girlfriend looks totally different. I mean, your wife looks totally different than...
It's funny. I screw it up all the time.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a girlfriend and a wife, so I didn't...
Don't tell her,
I got to make
Don't
sure
tell
her. But we'll see if she's listening to this or not.
Doubt it.
But the funny part is
Good episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Good.
I gotta go. I gotta go pick up some flowers.
But whenever you look at wisdom, because as we get into, especially when you get into fifth density,
I love wisdom.
But whenever you get into harnessing, like, because to me, harnessing wisdom, I always picture like a cowboy on a and we've been watching the show, and you watched the whole season. I haven't finished it yet. Yeah, Yellowstone. But it's like all about rodeo and horses. But it's taking this wild horse and then harnessing it, and then having it. And I always think of like my lower self, my higher self coming to my lower self is this wild Mustang. And then my higher self comes in as this badass cowboy and says, okay, this is what we got to go through.
I'm going to break this.
And so, exactly.
There's an interesting relationship because there's wisdom to it. You don't have to ride the horse at all. When you go to break a horse, even one that's half broken, right? Non-broken, like totally wild. Or half broken, you put it in a relatively confined area. And you, in the first, maybe week and a half, you're just around it. You're feeding it. It gets comfortable. Okay? You're not forcing it. You're not telling it what to do. You're there, and then you leave. It's a very passive approach. Mm-hmm. And you start to build a relationship of trust because you're feeding this thing, which is cool. A little bit of wisdom to this, right? You're not going to jump on the horse's back right away and get thrown off and break your leg. You don't want to do that. And then, after it's gotten accustomed to you, right? Then you want to start to break this thing. Then you want to get this thing to move. And you get it to move in circles, move in pace. It gets to move to your commands in what you are essentially, you're creating a flow, and you want it to move within that flow, whether that be in a circle or something else. And then it'll get to a point, it will then start and stop with the flow you have created rather than forcing something upon it. It will actually move into it.
That makes sense.
And then, in your infinite wisdom, because you were patient, you can now take the risk or the leap of actually jumping on the horse's back. Does that make sense?
Then that seems like
it's a big risk.
But hopefully at that point you've built a relationship enough.
But that's what you have
it's going to be uneasy, but it won't.
But you got to do that with yourself.
Yes.
Everybody wants to jump, right?
Yeah.
I want to fourth density. I want to be fifth density. No. You're going to be a human being in your meat sack right now. Okay?
Right.
And you need to take the appropriate steps. You need to be wise in these steps because they build a foundation to allow you to take larger catalyzing experiences, like jumping on the back of the horse. Okay? Being with the horse is also an alignment of you with nature. It's a defining relationship between the cowboy or the rancher and the horse itself. And with that symbiosis, there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot of metaphors that can be applied to how you live your own life. Outside of just horses and ranching itself, like with anything that you do. If you're getting into a relationship, start slow. Don't jump into it. Everybody wants to like fuck on the first night, but like seriously, like relax.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Get to understand
those are all insecurities. The reason you're impatient a lot of time is because of an insecurity.
This person's going to leave me immediately. I got to get this done.
I got to do this.
Right. Lay a proper foundation for growth. Mm-hmm. Don't be so aggressive and push into it. There is internal learning and wisdom that you need to have. And when you do have it, every time you approach a new scenario, you get to bring that knowledge and experience with you and know exactly when to apply it. And that's when you become wise.
Yes. And the wisdom, I think, is important whenever we're looking at service to others. Whenever your higher self comes into the picture and you create unity with that higher self, now you're going to have your core essence of who you truly are.
Yeah.
And that reflection to others is going to be genuine.
So let's talk about that.
Because that's really important. Yeah.
This is cool. You're exactly correct about this. When we say like allowing your higher self to come in, you have this this overall consciousness block. Essentially, over all your lifetimes, every time you've had a thought or done something, there's an energy signature to it. It gets stored, okay? Now, the spirit takes this and digests all these actions and finds the ones that have creational truths in it. Mm-hmm. And you have the ability to allow those things to flow into you, those truths which you've learned over many lifetimes. Not saying like, oh, I know my past life. I was a Bedouin. I did this. I was a shoemaker. That doesn't matter. What matters are the truthful learnings that happen in that life, regardless of personality, regardless of profession, regardless of time. And so if you get out of the way, these impulses will come to you. You will naturally call upon it. There will be a flow from this thing, from this deeper learning, where this higher self, if you view it like that, essentially like this hard drive in the sky, right? It'll only tell you the things you need, but it will pump it through your subconscious, or your unconscious to the subconscious, and then to your conscious level for you to take action upon. But that can only happen when you get the fuck out of your own way.
Yeah, and Ra talks about this through Kundalini energy. It's not breath work. It's not any of those things per se. It's mainly this understanding of learning the catalyst. And through learning that, you unlock, if you want to use the word unlock, but you unlock the blocks in your chakras. And then that allows that energy to flow from, your pineal gland or however you want, but up and down the spine.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too far into that, but it's so important because when you look at Ra's teachings, it's not saying go to India, find a guru, do breath work, do psychotropic, or all these drugs, do all these things. And none of those things are, I'm not saying perceive that they're bad, but it's like, hey, learn from your catalyst. Serve others. Yeah. You want to be enlightened and awakened? These are the things that
these are the things
it seems like now. So like people are kind of disappointed when they hear it.
Well, yeah, but I think there's so much simplicity to it. It agitates people. Mm-hmm. People are so used to being told things are complex, and when it's of complexity, it's of value.
Yes.
That is a human machination that we have put together, right? That is not actually real. It's presumed to be a value. But the most simple things are the things of the highest value because there's less confusion.
Yes.
They're more applicable to more things. And like we said, if you want to be wise, don't go seek out a guru. Why would you go to somebody else to give you answers when you've already created your own internal questions? Mm-hmm. You've generated them. So you have the answer for it.
You're just getting regurgitated information from their hard drive in the sky that helped them.
So they're just like, nothing to do with you.
Yeah, you need to go access your own hard drive.
There's nothing wise about that.
Which that hard drive is actually you.
And two, that person, honestly, say they are a guru. They could be far more advanced than you are in consciousness. Yes. It's not going to help you. It is actually so far beyond your ability to do your own self-learning, self-actualization, realization of the catalysts and adjusting to them in your life choices. That won't benefit you.
No, that's why people jump from one thing to the next spiritually. Yeah. We see that here in Santa Fe.
All the time.
It's like, oh, this is the coolest new thing. Let's do this. Let's spend $5,000 on this conference. This is the coolest new thing. Let's go to Sedona. Let's go to Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Let's go, to San Francisco. And then we're going to all do this in the Redwoods. It's just jumping from one thing to the next, hoping that one of them will create a catalyst. And what's happening is you're so external that you're not working on that one source wisdom that is in you internally, and you're not allowing that, which is infinite.
The OSW, one source
So
wisdom.
How much cap do you have on serving others? And Ra says that the service is infinite. Like when you begin to think about that, so the power that I get to serve others is infinite.
It knows no bounds.
So,
well, why is that?
Because Buddha, Jesus, look how much they've helped in the world.
When you're in service to others, right, by understanding yourself, you're starting to move closer to infinity. And love is pure understanding. That is pure service to others, which has no bounds. That's why it's called intelligent infinity. It's unifying in its sense because it is boundless. It encompasses all. And then when you start to put a limit on it, that's not total love. That's not total understanding. That is not the proper seeking that is required, right? Does this make sense? Don't. It's unlimited. It's unlimited in its most perfect form because love is an unlimited thing.
Yes. And so when we're coming to questioning service, so you're like, well, I do this. I go to the homeless shelter. I do this. I do. God. So the question is not to ask, am I serving or not? The question is to ask, what would the next level of service embodying the Creator's love and wisdom? What does that specifically look like for me? What does that entail?
Yeah,
and asking that question is pure. Your higher self's going to respond to that question.
Yeah, because this is an internal thing. This is like a conversation with spirit.
Yes.
Okay, and when you post it the first way about the next thing I have to do, it's thinking about the external thing. Like there's a higher external thing that has to happen.
Yes.
No. It's a higher level of understanding internally, which you need to have. It's not the external doing material. It's internal immaterial understanding.
Well, you have to understand your fourth density, which is already here, which is wild in and of itself because it's not bound by time or space.
No.
Is its inherent nature is to serve others with love and wisdom.
Well, isn't that
that's its nature?
Can I ask you something?
So that's you for real.
Is that what the earth does all the time? It serves us.
Yes, yeah.
Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So
We're
the
taking.
The earth is just like, it wants to be in like fourth density, but we force it. We're holding it back in third because of the harm we're asking it to inflict upon us. And people are going to be like, what are you talking about, inflict upon us? We have made these choices. We have asked for all of these things to occur to us. Polarization, politics, war, destruction of our environment, climate degradation. We have asked for those things.
Yes.
These are our choices over time. And people say, oh, like, people don't ask for it. No, we did. With everything we have done, we have asked for this. And the earth is forced to stay in a protective state rather than a giving, loving, unifying state up and forth. We won't let it transition to a higher vibration.
And we have the ability to.
Yeah.
Like we have technology, we have everything that we need, and our ancestors did that. They were in correspondence. I'm reading a book from Rudolf Steiner, and he's talking about this material kind of channeled or whatever, I don't know, but Lemurians, and he was talking about them, how integrated they were with where they could have the thought processes with nature. Like, so if they saw a monkey, they could have a conversation through like telepathy, through not really telepathy, but they could understand each other's thoughts. Or with the volcano, like a mineral was no different or a stone was no different because they're second density.
Yeah, but they still carry creational energy within it.
We've done things on crystals and living that they're living. So they could have that. They developed this unity of thought with nature. And so any technology that they exhibited always would have a conversation with the earth in all of its forms, mineral base, whatever it may be.
What's the impact of the technology I'm creating?
Yes.
Now, mind you, these people did not live, they didn't evolve here on Earth. They came to Earth.
Yes.
So they brought higher evolved principles down here.
Yes.
And so their relative understanding in their balance and how they were living with the Earth is of a much higher understanding than what we currently have right now. I read, are we still going through this before I go on a tangent?
No, go on a tangent. We got time.
Oh, yeah, we got time.
17 minutes.
Yeah, we're good. So I was reading this thing about, all right, like we've talked about before, Charles Darwin was a fucking jackass. Okay? His whole theory of evolution and us evolving from apes, crock of shit. Because all the other apes, or hominids, or whatever the fuck they're called, would be evolving at the same time, right? Yes. They're not. Some are still dragging their knuckles, and we're walking upright.
Yeah.
Talking, thinking, doing things, building more advanced tools, yada, 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 killing each other. I don't even know if I should. Yeah, okay. So if we take the context of human beings today, we have this aggression within us. It's there in all of us. We have a very strong predisposition to combat, and we're good at it.
Yeah.
We're really good at it. Like, you can train people fast into the military. Why is that? Have you ever considered? It's part of us. So let me ask.
It's our DNA drive.
Yeah. See, now we're getting somewhere. Okay. So what I was reading is that where did that come from? Why is it genetically coded into us to have these levels of aggression and a keen understanding for combat?
Well, if you look at those those one tablets were Thoth and all them,
the emerald ones,
yeah, the emerald ones, whether they're crockshit or not, I don't know. But they're saying that the Anunnaki came and bred aliens or themselves with the apes that were here, ape humans that were here, or whatever,
right? Called Evas.
Yeah, so maybe if that is true. And I don't know because I wasn't there.
I wasn't alive.
I wasn't alive then. There was probably some other part of me, but I was probably just a rock hanging out looking, just checking everything out at that point in my life. But which isn't far from removed from now. But whenever you look at that hybrid whatever. Maybe the warlike comes from the monkey mind, the reptilian mind. There's all these different.
Even better, you're going to love
theories.
what I read.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Cool. So there were these creator overlords in the region of Sirius. We know it. We look at it, right? It's always in the sky. Our pyramids are pointed towards it, and many different landscape structures, everything. We're always pointing towards that one point in space. Now, these creator overlords, they had a very good understanding, highly developed. And what they wanted to do for themselves was remove any aggression they had internally at a genetic level. They wanted to remove it because they didn't want trouble in their civilization. But when they did that, they removed aspects at a creational sense that allowed them to protect themselves. They thought it would be of total benefit to be completely pacifist, no aggression, total pure non-aggression. So in order to continue to keep this non-aggression within themselves in a perfect state of non-aggression, they had to create something to protect themselves because they could no longer do it. They no longer had a will to fight, to do these things, whatever it might be. So say someone comes to invade in the depths of space. Some unruly group wants to show up. Well, these creator overlords wanted to make sure that they had a group of things that didn't live too long, had a natural cutoff time. And then with that, they were very, very good at combat. It was honestly turned up in their genetics to protect these creator overlords. But then what happens when someone so advanced creates these things, and then these things realize that their lives, because they're conscious, they're human.
Yes.
Their lives are cut short because they were only designed to have a job to be some sort of combat protection. But the longevity was, say, cut off at 1/10 the amount of time that it should have been at. And now, say for an instance, those people got together, this combat-ready group, and decided to leave. Because once they realized that they could rise up and realize that their lives were cut short because of these creator overlords in the Sirius region, we need to get away from them and start to live our own lives. We don't want to be in control. We actually want to evolve out of our aggression because it's too aggressive.
Well, once self-awareness hits, that's going to happen.
And imagine being born into a world, when self-awareness hits, and imagine being born into a world where you already know your life's been cut short by 1/10 of its total maximum capacity because someone genetically designed it that way. And then assume those people leave that region and find themselves over here on Earth hiding from the ones that created them because the ones that created them want to get rid of their creation because it's actually a thorn in their side. They understood where they made their mistake, and now they brought a little bit of their aggression back as a creator overlord and want to remove any trace of essentially this genetic line they created. And then these things are brought here to, say, planet Earth, and for so long, cancer, Alzheimer's, forms of dementia, things that were genetically encoded into our genes, but we have an increased appetite for combat and combat readiness at a genetic level.
Right.
It's something we're trying to work out of.
Yeah, I think it's that makes sense. And there's a lot of cool stories like that.
It was cool when I read it. I'm like, that's kind of badass.
But I mean, from my perspective, it makes sense that we're alien. From whatever we were and
why is that, Jason?
It makes sense because obviously there's no explanation with evolution when you start going down the trail. Like you mentioned, just like where's the half apes now? Like there should be a continual.
There isn't.
There isn't. Yeah. So and they're like, well, that's millions of years. It takes millions of years. It doesn't matter. The millions of years ago, apes. They should find in the rural parts of jungles. There should be tribes of these.
But there's not.
There's never. But the thing that I want to explain more than anything is, if you're an advanced, let's say you've understand unity, maybe you're fifth density, you could still be service to self, fifth density.
Upper fifth.
Yeah, and still be service to self.
Oh, most definitely.
So let's say this group was service to self, but they've evolved towards sixth density unity. So they had to do something like this to protect themselves because no matter who you are, if you have an enemy or a potential enemy, and this is what happened to Atlantean. There's a defense that has to happen. You have to because you're vulnerable.
It's in nature. Think about a mother and her children.
Yes, exactly.
If you don't protect them, your species goes away.
Yes.
It is a naturally ingrained thing within us. But for some, it was supercharged. And for advanced civilizations, this is why they still have defense systems, because there are those less evolved or aggressors, and it requires them to protect. That's why these things are in place. I remember in the Meyer material, people were all scoffing at the fact that the Plejarians had guns. Why? You don't want to protect you never know what's going to happen, but it's nice to know I have something to protect myself.
Right.
In the event that someone does come as an aggressor.
Well, people don't understand, but your free will is going to be constantly under attack.
Whether it's the time.
And we focus on the physical aspect, but the mental and spiritual aspect, whether there's higher beings, on the spiritual side of things, the mental side of things, all the propaganda that's out there over and over and over. Every time you go on Instagram, you're under a mental attack.
All the time.
So whatever you have to understand, to me, and we'll get, I think this plays right. This was really good because it plays right into this lesson. Whoever created us, or however we were created,
sure.
Obviously, we develop a consciousness.
Yes.
And we're going to end up creating beings. I mean, we're on that path. Whether it's 10,000 years from now, 500 years from now, whatever, we're going to create something like you just talked about. Sure. I guarantee whether we create soldiers or whether with CRISPR and everything that's going on.
When they apply CRISPR and advanced artificial intelligence with some sort of organic cybernetic connection between both those things, which we're seeing with wetware now, that's when we're going to find this stuff. And I don't think it's that far down the road.
No, I don't think it is either. I want to give a quote directly from Ra. It says this: "Even illuminating a handful with your light justifies the most profound effort. Your desire to serve couldn't be more noble." So he's using a reference. Jesus talked about, because I've been studying, which I'm going to go down. I got to tell you this.
This is a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I need to have you interview this guy. He's a Hebraic scholar, and he's a rabbi. And so he's showing how the church changed the Bible. Like in the Septuagint, he was going back. This is another, I'm doing a rabbit hole now, but this is so interesting. So the word virgin, if you go back to the original Hebrew in Hebraic, means maiden. So Origen in like 400 AD changed it to virgin. So it was like a maiden, just like a regular woman, and then now we made it Virgin Mary, and then did the whole,
rather than Maiden Mary.
Yeah, just Maiden Mary. Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me look at the definition for maiden.
Yeah, the Hebrew word for maiden,
unmarried woman.
That was it. Yeah, she was just an unmarried woman. Yeah. So, but isn't it funny how? So this is. I mean, look how much harm has been caused from a slip of one word.
Yeah.
In a text.
Well, and it's intentional.
See, this is the thing that I'm getting at. You have to understand the only thing that's opposite of what you're getting bombarded with in the so-called world out there is the ability for you to show your light, is the ability for you to serve others in your specific, genuine way. Yeah. That is the only way to counteract all this.
You become such like a walking bullshit filter.
Yes. I love that.
That's the best way to describe it. And you don't necessarily have to call people on the bullshit. You just act and be the purest, most loving, wise, and creational form of yourself possible. And you just cut through bullshit all day long. And it will allow you to filter these things out. And you have this natural, essentially guiding compass, an internal one.
Yes.
For the people you interact with and the things you read and the things you actually choose to absorb, into your consciousness itself.
Yeah, let's do a part 2 on this because I just want to finish up these questions and stuff like that and not have this one go too long.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. And where's the magic mind today?
I know. There's no
Did
magic
you forget
mind.
it?
The magic mind.
Did you forget it? Because I wanted to slam some.
I know. We should have slammed some before the podcast.
Son of a bitch.
I know. Yeah. It's just like the word is so funny.
I'm gonna roll this out to 30 minutes. I'm just gonna hang out right here.
We're gonna hang out for a couple.
Yeah. I just like my nice
like Jeopardy
round numbers.
Something was up with that the other day.
What do you mean?
The new person that's doing the host or something. It's so funny how this cancel culture and everything that's going on right now, and then how it's when somebody has one bad moment or they get pissed off one time, everybody's so sensitive.
I'm going to end on this quote.
Go ahead. Is this by Lizzo?
I'll end on this quote. A dog will remember 3 days of kindness for 7 years, and human beings will forget 7 years of kindness in 3 days. Thank you very much, everybody.